Sarah moved through the dimly lit corridors of the colony's underground medical bay, her hand steady despite the chaos around her. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the metallic tang of blood, but she barely noticed. Another soldier, barely out of his teens, groaned in pain as she stitched a deep wound on his leg. "Hold still," she murmured, her voice calm, soothing. "You'll be fine." He tried to thank her, but exhaustion overtook him. She didn't mind. She didn't do this for gratitude. Outside, the Galactic Empire tightened its grip. Ever since the occupation began, life on the colony had become unbearable. The aliens saw humans as lesser beings, good for labor but nothing more. Their laws were harsh. Their punishments were cruel. Yet, the people endured. Sarah had watched the first waves of executions with horror, but she never gave up. She worked in secret, treating wounded rebels and defying the Empire in the only way she could. That defiance sealed her fate. The knock came at midnight. A single, deliberate rap against the metal door. She knew. When she opened it, a squad of armored enforcers stood waiting, weapons raised. Behind them, an alien officer with cold, reptilian eyes watched her with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing an insect. "Dr. Sarah Kane," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "By order of the Galactic Empire, you are under arrest." She didn't plead. Didn't beg. She simply nodded and stepped forward. Chains bit into her wrists as they dragged her through the streets. The people who once whispered her name in gratitude now looked away, powerless to help. Fear kept them silent. The trial was a formality. A display. They paraded her in front of a crowd, making it clear that defiance would not be tolerated. The sentence was death. She stood on the platform, back straight, eyes unwavering. The executioner raised his blade, the Empire's chosen method of delivering justice. In her final moments, she closed her eyes and whispered one name. The soldiers didn't recognize it. The spectators dismissed it. The officer overseeing the execution barely registered it. But the universe would soon learn. When the blade fell, they thought it was over. They were wrong. The message reached him at dawn. A single encrypted transmission, buried within routine military reports. No urgency in its tone. No emotion. Just facts. Sarah Kane. Executed. Galactic Empire decree. Charges. Treason. Marcus Kane sat in silence as he read the words again. His hands did not shake. His expression did not change. But something inside him, something cold and ruthless, took hold. The Empire had made a mistake. A grievous one. They thought they had killed a nameless doctor, another faceless rebel sympathizer. They had no idea who she was to him. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. He placed the datapad on the table and exhaled slowly. Prepare the fleet. The room stirred. Old veterans, men and women who had fought beside him in wars long past, exchanged glances. They had seen this look before. A look that meant someone, no, many, were going to die. No questions were asked. Orders were given. Resources moved. Kane had walked away from war once. He had built a life away from battle, away from the carnage. Sarah had been his peace. His reason. Now she was gone. And there would be no peace. Not for them. Contacts were called. Mercenaries, ex-soldiers, rogue AI units, people who owed him favors. They all answered. They knew better than to refuse Marcus Kane. Tacticians studied the planetary defenses. Engineers outfitted ships with the latest cloaking technology. Weapons specialists ensured every rifle, missile, and kinetic bombardment system was ready. There was no blind rage, no reckless charge. Vengeance, in Kane's hands, was methodical. Precise. The Empire had power, yes. But they had grown complacent. Arrogant. They believed humanity was broken, tamed. They would learn. Before the fleet launched, he watched the final recording of Sarah, captured before her death. Her face was bruised, her uniform torn, but her eyes held no fear. Only defiance. She had been strong until the end. Kane would make sure the Empire remembered that. When he rose from his chair, the decision was final. There would be no surrender, no negotiations. The Galactic Empire had taken everything from him. Now he would take everything from them. The attack began without warning. No declarations. No threats. Just silent ships cutting through the void, slipping past planetary defenses like ghosts. By the time the alarm sounded, it was too late. The first strikes were surgical, power grids, communication hubs, orbital defense platforms. One by one, they went dark. The Empire's forces scrambled, but their command structure was in chaos. Orders were delayed. Responses were uncoordinated. Then the real assault began. Gunships roared through the skies, dropping precision strikes on key military installations. Supply depots erupted in fire. Barracks collapsed under kinetic bombardment. The Empire's troops barely had time to arm themselves before their bases turned to rubble. The city fell into panic. Civilians ran for shelter, soldiers shouted conflicting orders. The Empire's officers, so used to lording over an unarmed population, found themselves hunted. Every move had been calculated. Every strike anticipated their response. Marcus Kane knew exactly how they would react, because he had trained for it his entire life. He had studied their tactics, their weaknesses, their arrogance. And he exploited all of it. Broadcasts cut into the Empire's communication networks, replaying the execution of Sarah Kane. Over and over. The same moment. The same mistake. A message followed, simple and cold. You killed the wrong woman. Morale shattered. Some troops surrendered immediately, throwing down their weapons before they could be targeted. Others tried to rally, only to be met with relentless, merciless precision. The Empire had ruled through fear. Now, for the first time, they felt it. Commander Zalvote watched the destruction unfold from his command center. His forces were crumbling, and no reinforcements were coming. Transmissions were jammed, escape routes cut off. He had underestimated humans. Underestimated him. The doors to his bunker shuddered under impact. Kane was coming. The bunker doors held for 3 minutes. Then they were breached. Smoke and fire filled the air as Kane stepped inside, his presence as suffocating as the destruction he had wrought. His soldiers moved with ruthless efficiency, cutting down any resistance before it had a chance to form. Zalvote had no escape. No reinforcements. No chance. He pressed his back against the cold metal wall, his claws twitching as Kane advanced. The human's eyes held no rage, no satisfaction, just the quiet certainty of a man delivering judgment. Zalvote tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. His kind had spent centuries conquering, believing themselves superior. Yet now, in the face of this single human, he understood terror in its purest form. His voice cracked. Mercy. Kane stared at him for a long, silent moment. Then, he pulled the execution order from his belt, the one with Sarah's name on it, signed by Zalvote himself. Did she get mercy? The shot rang out. Zalvote crumpled, lifeless before he hit the ground. Outside, the last remnants of the Empire's forces surrendered. Ships powered down. Weapons were abandoned. Soldiers, once loyal to their rulers, knelt in fear. They knew what Kane had done here would spread. They knew the Empire would never recover. Kane didn't stay to watch. There was no victory for him here, no celebration. His war had ended the moment Zalvote fell. As he walked past the wreckage, past the silent soldiers who dared not meet his gaze, he thought of Sarah. Of the life they had built. The peace they had once known. The Empire had taken everything from him. Now, he had returned the favor.